Now, to help us understand the current landscape, we are joined in the studio by Mr. Mohammad Alshatti, energy expert, a leading voice at the heart of international energy decision-making. Mr. Mohammad, thank you for being with us here in the studio.
My pleasure, thank you.
Thank you. Now, to head straight into the latest that's happening in the oil market. Now, how would you characterize the current phase of oil market? Are we facing a global shock, for example, or is it a security shock, or is it both simultaneously, for example, that's happening?
Well, I believe that it is really more towards the security shock. And my argument is based on price level. Price level is a good indicator where we are. If you look into beginning of 2026, all forecasters were viewing that 2026 there will be a surplus between 1 million to 4 million barrels per day. And that have put a lot of pressure on prices. And prices were in the range of 60 to 70. Mostly it were in 65. Sometimes they were even lower than 60 in the 59, 58.
That's the Brent.
That's the Brent prices. And eventually we had a surplus of crude. More than and that pressured prices. But when you come into since 3rd of March, when 3 or 5 of vessels were targeted and put into fire, that really scared everybody coming or going outside the Strait of Hormuz. And we have seen the prices just moved up from 80, 85, 90, 100. They reached up to 170 and remained within us. This shows that there is a serious supplies moving out of the Strait of Hormuz. And this is basically not because we are not producing, producers are not producing oil or cannot send the oil outside, but it is basically because there is a real threat for any movement of oil. So that means it is technically halting any movement of crude oil from the Gulf to all other markets. And you have to understand that basically when you talk about the Gulf, you're talking about the Arabian Gulf, we're talking about around 20 to 25 million barrels per day of oil, which is about one-fifth of the market demand. We talk about demand in the range of 105 million barrels per day. That means this much. This is the importance of this area. So this much of oil is not anymore in the market. At best, if we talk at best, it is 5 million that is going outside the Gulf. We're talking about 15 million actually not going anywhere. And so we are talking about security shock. We are talking about supply, but that supply is really because of the situation of the whole thing of burning vessels and making everything is difficult for a smooth oil movement that we have enjoyed for years and years from us as producers to the end customers. Now, it depends really on the situation. If it's continue, it will be a disaster on everybody. But if it is still within, let's say, now we are talking about 15 days. So if it increased, probably people are still talking about an issue that there might be a solution there. If the solution comes fast, that is easier to be resolved. But otherwise, it is a serious to a lot, and it is attached with a lot of risks.
Because it's been like more than 20 days now, and higher oil prices affect economies, especially if there is no production.
It's affecting economy. It's affecting inflation. It's affecting the overall industry, power stations.
Exactly. Higher inflation affects the economic activity, so that will cause the GDP.
We might have a recession, in fact.
A stagflation, some say as well. As the last Fed meeting, they talked about a stagflation possible, even though if we were far away from it, because of the oil.
Because of the oil.
And now, before we move to another point, I'd like to understand how different is disrupting the movement of routes in the Strait of Hormuz and targeting oil infrastructure, because heinous Iranian strikes have targeted and tried to target oil production sites in GCC, and we see disruption at Strait of Hormuz. Do they both increase the prices of oil, or do they differ? Some, let's say, the disruption maybe makes the price goes higher than targeting oil sites.
Let me put it this way. Targeting the infrastructure is really making higher prices for longer period of time. While stopping the movement of oil from the Gulf, from the Arabian Gulf, through the Strait of Hormuz to the different markets, especially we're talking about around 85–90% of our exports going ends in Asia, in all countries of Asia. Now, when you're talking about the infrastructure, we're talking about the actual well. We're talking about the going into the gathering center. We're talking about the pipelines. We're talking about the refineries. So if these are hit, then you need to, that should be recovered, and that will have a lot of time to come back. And that means even if the Strait of Hormuz come back to normal, you have here a lot of time. It could be months to be recovered and fixed and go back to normal. This is one thing. Also, with closing the Strait of Hormuz, many of our countries have took into account a strategy of closing up wells, starting with the easy ones. When you're talking about the easy ones means when it is retained, it retains very quickly until they reach to the difficult. If the situation extended to a longer period of time, that means we are going into the difficult wells. That means the return of these wells back to production, aside from hitting the wells or the infrastructure, it will take time, maybe a month, maybe months.
Some of them take more than others, right?
Yes, so this is what I'm saying. Some of them are quickly coming back. Some of them goes probably to 2 months or 3 months, because you are closing them. You're putting it down.
So even if the Strait opens tomorrow, we might have another problem.
We will have another problem.
Also, there may be also a problem of insurance companies, right, at the Strait?
Yes, yes, because it's why vessels are not coming back to the Gulf, because they are scared, because there is no company are willing to give that insurance.
They cancelled.
Yeah, it's very. If it happens, they cancel. But if it happens, it will be under very high prices.
Because if they have insurance, it will cost them more, right?
Yes.
Okay. And also one more scenario about the force majeure that happened in Kuwait, which is cancelling the contract just to protect the state of Kuwait of not being able to deliver. Now we will get to the force majeure, but one might wonder if prices of oil is going high. For example, in Dubai reached more than 160, in Kuwait more than $150.
Yes.
So these high prices, people think that they're giving you the benefits, but can we really get the benefits since we're not delivering?
It is very limited to get the benefit while you cannot export. If I'm talking about, we should be exporting as a Gulf countries, all producers, around 20 to 25 million. Today, we are only exporting probably, at the best, with other conditions, probably 5 million. I'm not talking about the Kuwait, but other countries through other routes, like Oman, like the Saudis. But here, the Gulf, almost there is no export outside. This is why nobody is benefiting from the high prices, except for in another ways. We have in Kuwait, we have two formulas for selling crude. We have formula, which is basically while you are exporting a crude in February, but the actual prices in March. Those contracts will certainly give a benefit to Kuwait. But if and also those which are sent or sold from from being stored from Japan and Korea.
Yes.
Also, those can be also benefiting Kuwait because these, it benefit from. But these are limited. Also, you have your refinery is running. There is products. Products are going to some pockets here in the AG, in the Arabian Gulf. These also will benefit. But again, you're talking about Kuwait producing 2.6 million barrels per day. And now, because of the situation, this number has been reduced to a minimal level. So the difference is big.
Yes.
So it is serious when talking about the revenues that is always coming to Kuwait, easy, and to all producers. Now, producers are faced with a serious challenge that they cannot, or there is no source of revenues that is already being there.
Yeah, exactly.
Except, as I said, pockets here and there, which is also shows that people or our calibers are looking for pockets that eventually means higher revenues for Kuwait.
That's clear. Now, since you also mentioned about the east-west pipeline in Saudi Arabia, which goes through Yanbu, and there's also the alternative in UAE, which is the Fujairah one, exactly, which bypasses Strait of Hormuz. So there is alternatives, but about the state of Kuwait, maybe for the time being, there's no alternative. We rely on Hormuz. Do you think we will be relying on the reserve we have in Japan and other countries, as you said?
Well, these, as I said, it will benefit, but the benefit is minimal because the volume is minimal. Is probably I don't have a number. Probably it is in the range of 7 or 8 million barrels per day. Million barrels, not barrels per day.
Barrels,
yeah. That could be benefit, and it is benefiting. But again, if the thing is that you can face with challenges, but if the challenge is not resolved within a certain period of time, then the impact will be huge on everybody.
And now moving back to the force majeure, as we explained, this is a contractual cancellation between the state of Kuwait and its obligations that it can't deliver for the time being due to external circumstances. Could you speak of this a little more? Because some people think that it's mostly negative to Kuwait that it can't produce any oil. It has oil, but for the time being, it can't deliver through the Strait. That's it, right?
Well, let's put it this way. There is a normal situation and there is a force majeure situation. The normal situation is that you have your partnership with different customers, and you are exporting crude product, LPG, gas. While for the force majeure situation, also you have two types of contracts. You have FOB, which means the customer comes back to Kuwait with his ship and takes the delivery from Kuwait. And there is the C&F delivery. C&F means Kuwait has the ship, put the oil into the ship, and then the vessel goes back to the customer. But there are different in the pricing. But here the force majeure is on the C&F, not the FOB. Most of our crudes are on FOB. So the situation, of course, it's what I'm saying is that it is a normal because all producers this is the practice of the industry.
This is the normal practice.
A normal practice in such a situation, and we have done it in the past.
In decades back.
Yes.
Back in decades. Yeah.
Yes. So when we had the force majeure, it is there. It is so it is a practice between customers. It will not impact Kuwait per se.
It protects us.
It protects us and protects because there is a contract between the buyer and the seller which governs all of these relationships. But what it means for the whole Gulf, really, again, we're going back to it's a security shock. For the first time, it's not a supply shock. It is not because here we have big reserves, huge reserves. We have big production. We have also spare capacity. In fact, all the spare capacity is in this area. Wherever you go, here we have oil that is needed by the world and by the consumers. This is why you see all this attention even though the fight is between 3 parties or 2 parties, it is everybody is trying to interfere to reach a solution, whether it's through ensuring or proposing assurance of the smooth movement of vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, or trying to talk to the Iranian regime to ensure the safe movement, or even pressuring that this move, because you know when talk about all countries are in need, they are in need for the oil. So this is why I would argue that this cannot stay for long. It has to be resolved because it is in the benefit of the world economy, all countries, even the industry, the power. It is an essential energy that is needed for all the world.
Hopefully that's clear. Mr. Mohammed, this is informative, but if you excuse us, we'll just take a quick phone call with our correspondent in Washington, and we will continue our discussion with you. As tensions continue, dear viewers, to escalate in the Gulf region, global attention is increasingly focused on developments surrounding the Strait of Hormuz and the broad implications for energy security and regional stability. In Washington, political and military circles are closely monitoring the situation, particularly following the latest statements and warnings issued by the United States toward Iran. These developments raise critical questions about the next phase of the crisis, the risks facing allied nations, and the measures being taken to safeguard vital infrastructure across the region. And to better understand the strategic calculations behind Washington's response, we now turn to our correspondent in Washington, Dalia Al-Koumi, who brought us the latest insights and analysis.
In Washington, the reported 48-hour ultimatum attributed to Donald Trump is being received with a mix of support and concern. On one hand, the supporters, particularly among Republican hawks, argue that a hard deadline reinforces U.S. credibility and could force Tehran to back down quickly. Critics, on the other hand, including some Democrats and foreign policy veterans, warn that striking Iran's power infrastructure would mark a major escalation and risk triggering a wider regional conflict. Overall, the mood is that this is a high-stakes coercive move, but on that significantly narrows the space for diplomacy if Iran does not comply. Well, Washington is taking Iran's threats against Gulf energy and desalination facilities very seriously, especially for the vulnerable partners and allies in the Middle East. U.S. officials are actively discussing air and missile defense reinforcement, intelligence sharing, and rapid response coordination with Gulf states. There is also particular concern about asymmetric attacks like drones, missiles, cyber, targeting critical infrastructure such as oil export terminals and water desalination plants. While the U.S. has provided reassurances of support, privately there is recognition that full protection is difficult, taking into consideration, of course, the proximity of Iran with the allies, especially against large-scale or coordinated attacks. In short, we can say contingency planning is underway, but the vulnerability of key infrastructure remains a central concern during this war. Well, despite the visible buildup, carrier strike groups, Marines, advanced aircraft, the United States Department of Defense continues to publicly frame the posture as deterrence and force protection. However, behind the scenes, we can say there is growing acknowledgement that the current deployment provides credible offensive options, not just defensive coverage. Planning scenarios reportedly include expanded air campaigns, limited strikes on strategic targets. A full ground invasion remains unlikely at this stage, but contingency planning for escalation is clearly in place, particularly if Iran continues to escalate and refuses to go back to a negotiating table or try to reach out to end the war. Bottom line, Washington is still publicly signaling deterrence, but operationally preparing for a broader conflict if escalation continues from Iran's side.
Dalia Al-Koumi, our correspondent in Washington, thank you for the insight. Now, dear viewers, we continue our discussion with our dear guest, special guest here, Mr. Mohammed. We're back. We were speaking about Kuwait and the force majeure and how it protects Kuwait, of course. Now, let's shift a bit to the U.S. side. There's been a statement as Donald Trump, the U.S. president, said that the increase in oil prices it does benefit the US. Some argue that it partially benefits the US. We see there is high oil and fuel prices in the US, but at the same time, we see a spread between what they call the crack spread between the WTI, which is the US oil, and the Brent. So for example, now I think it's the highest in 11 years. It's about $12 or $14. It reached about that. So the refineries in US, the observers say that refineries in US, they, for example, they make products, okay? They buy products based on the US price, which is about $90, for example, yeah? And then they sell it, linking it to the Brent price, which is $112 or $13. So per barrel, they get the crack spread, which is $14. So that makes, let's say, tens of millions or maybe reach billions of dollars. So do you think this is a thing that where refineries make money from the crack spread?
Yeah, of course. When you talk about refinery margins, the margin of the refinery is basically the crude of buying crude, the price of buying crude versus the overall price of producing products. Because eventually, what is the refinery? The refinery is basically taking a crude, refining in the refining, and producing the different product slate, starting from LPG, gasoline, kerosene, jet, gas oil, diesel, fuel oil. So eventually, if that products, as you said, the cracks between the two crudes, which is basically the benchmark crudes, it's WTI and Brent. It can be, and it encourage the refining to increase their runs, because eventually they will take a lot of products with a higher prices, selling it into Europe where it is in need with the whole situation. Because here you're not talking, you know, when the Russian situation or the Russian invasion of Ukraine, 22, and it has stopped all the Russian gas. It has also stopped the Russian diesel into Europe, and Europe is a big importer of diesel. This is why, if you remember, countries like Kuwait, like Saudis, have benefited from moving the diesel from our side of the world to Europe with the higher prices. Now the US is doing the same, because here we have the situation in the Gulf, and because of some refiners have been hit, so they cannot produce, or their production is lower, or even the means and the route to send it to Europe are not there.
So it's like history is repeating itself in different regions.
In different regions. It's basically, you know, in such a situation, usually what changes is the pattern of trade. When Russia could not sell gas or crude to Europe, it went back to the east with the lower prices, to China and to India. When gas was not there, it came back to here. Qatari gas went back to Europe because supplementing the Russian gas into Europe. So this is basically, it is these situations that the market cope with it in a certain way. It's called the trade patterns, and people benefit because of the arbitrage is open, and whoever it is, whether it's a refiner or producer, will get a higher prices. Here, probably the main beneficiary is, yes, the US. But again, also it has to be, we have to understand, we're talking about only 20 days. Some people, 20 days with the higher prices than 100. Some people would go that the US will get a replacement for, or they recover their cost of the war in the Gulf. No, it's not this. It is only 20 days. So it is or governments with a budget, they will get a lot of revenues. No, because the government is, you have a 1 year budget when you budget against 70 or 75. But here we're talking about only a few days. Yes, if the problem
if it extends, then they would make billions. But we're only speaking about 24 days now. Yes. Yeah. Now let's move to OPEC and how it makes decisions. We'd like to understand more about OPEC and how it differentiates between, let's say, a geopolitical shock, a temporary geopolitical shock, and a supply or structural supply shortage. How do we understand OPEC's view on this?
See, OPEC have OPEC and OPEC Plus. When talking about OPEC, we're talking about 12 countries. When talking about OPEC Plus, we're talking about 22 countries. Certainly, they have done a big role into balancing the world and ensuring the supplies of energy security to the whole world since the Corona time until now. And lately, what they have done, and this is of course through monitoring the market. And they have a lot of ways of monitoring the market, whether it is on an annual basis. They have the WOO, which is the World Oil Outlook, in which they will look into the world for the next until 2050. They have also a strategic studies in which they will look into such hurdles, whether it is structural or it is temporary, and what to do against them. Now, when talking about the whole situation now, it is not a structural. It is really, and OPEC or the producer have nothing to do with it, in fact. And this is why there is little that OPEC can do. Eventually, what OPEC is doing is really they are ensuring that we invest in the oil, we invest in the gas, we invest in the renewable energy. We also have a spare capacity. We invest into increasing our reserves. We invest in the different infrastructure, ensuring that we have higher output. We're talking about the refining of clean energy. So all of this is being done. Also, we if under normal situation, always there is a monthly meeting between the oil ministers just to check the world or the market, where we are going. Do the market is in surplus or in shortage? What OPEC should we do? And this is what has been done. The last meeting, in fact, it was on the 1st of March, in which OPEC 8, the countries who are responsible for the voluntary cuts, they have agreed to increase their production by 206,000 barrels per day, effective April. But unfortunately, these unforeseen situations, these are situations in which we are in. We have nothing to do with it, though we have everything or every willingness, every strategy to ensure that the customer reach as an end result, reach its requirement of crude and products.
Could this situation that's happening, if it's, for example, goes for a long time, could it change organizations' outlook in 2026 or 2027?
Yes, it
could.
It could, because again, this region is the main region of surplus. And when you talk even for production potential everywhere, it is limited, except in this region. The region, if you talk about the future, we have the plans to increase production, the capacities. We have the capability, because our demand, in accordance with the production, it is it's very limited. While the world, wherever you go, their demand is higher than the actual local production, except probably for the US and except probably for Russia. Otherwise, the whole world is in need for oil, and the oil is here. So it will change, but it will change to the worst, actually, because here you don't have a replacement. So that means prices will probably go up. But again, this is why I am saying, I repeat myself, is that I think the situation is so serious that eventually we will have, sooner or later, we will have a solution for this situation.
And also in this situation, is oil increasingly becoming a geopolitical instrument that is important, or is it making countries realizing that they should diversify more and more away from oil?
It's It's both, huh? It's a geopolitical, because of such a situation.
In the Hormuz.
There are hot spots. If you talk about Venezuela, if you talk about Russia and Ukraine, if you talk about the Arabian Gulf, yes. So it is a geopolitical, not by choice, but by force, or by politics interference. If you look into diversification is already there. But if you look into the studies, all the studies, you know, there is a mix of energy. And the mix up to 2050 and beyond, oil will remain the main the main share in the overall mix at about 30%. But you cannot just do without it. Gas is about 25%, so again you cannot do without it.
And also other products that come out of oil, right?
And also other products, whether it is for jet, diesel, or the petrochemical side, whether it's medicines or other products. Eventually, oil is here to stay, and it is in need. And this makes an effort on the internationally to work together to resolve. This is why IEA, if it was not easy, IEA have come to an agreement of releasing 400 million barrels from their stocks to ease up the situation worldwide.
And to lower the prices, right?
Of course. See, there are, though there is a necessity to solve the prices, to solve the energy security, but in there is some efforts to reduce prices. Whether when you talk about some talks about an ongoing negotiation, now it has been announced for, or some kind of agreement for vessels to protect the vessels going outside the Straits of Hormuz, or whether to release the stocks. Of course, when you release the stocks, by the way, then you have to fill in at a later time. And this is why the price level, of course, not this level, but a higher price level, let's, in my point of view, 80 to 90 probably will stay with us probably within, I don't know, probably a year.
For a time.
Yes.
And I've noticed in your other interviews, sometimes you call for the idea that the US administrations, it does put effort to lower the prices for the good of the world, because higher prices, oil prices, will cause problems of inflation and low economic activities, which may cause stagflation. Now, even we could argue that releasing the strategic reserve of 400 million barrels of the IEA, and also the buying and selling for 30 days until 19th of April of Iranian oil, these measures by the US administration, we could argue that this is all to lower the prices and to maintain stability in the oil market, right?
Yeah, because when you have higher prices, it hurts also the US. Though they benefit from selling crude, from selling gas, but again the gas, the gasoline in the US, the prices will go higher, and this is not good for inside politics of the US. This is why he repeatedly wants prices to be within the $50, $60, because he wants to protect the local prices from being hit by higher crude prices, and because he's going soon into the
mid-election in November.
And
there has also been an internal problems with higher diesel and fuel prices.
Yes.
So that this will decrease it, right?
Yes.
If oil goes down.
Yes.
Yeah. And now we'll get back to a point you mentioned about the Gulf region. Somewhat rely on petrochemicals. For example, Saudi use petrochemicals. Other GCC nations rely on oil. Also, they use different products from oil, whether be it anything, urea or anything, or kibrit. Now, these products, we give them to the world, okay?
Yes.
So, since the problems now is happening, so the world, how is the world managing the past 24 days? If this goes long, I think European consumers, for example, and Asian consumers, they will have a problem as well, not only us.
Of course, if it goes for a long period of time, everybody will hurt. But they will do some things. They will rationalize demand. They will reduce the use of such products. They will try to find alternatives. And the other thing is that the prices for retail for these products will go high sky. And this is what everybody is suffering from, is because of the situation. Prices are moving up and up for everything.
Yeah, that's clear. Now, Mr. Mohammed, looking ahead, how should oil-producing countries position themselves, okay, in a world moving towards, for example, energy transition, while also facing supply shocks?
Well, again, we have to first say that the situation as it is not the product of oil producers. We have to be clear, and it's a factual. Now, as far as all these countries, whether it's talking about Kuwait, Saudi, Qatar, UAE, all have plans to diversify their energy output or their energy products between crude oil products, petrochemical, and also going into the renewables.
Renewable energy.
Renewable energy. So everybody is really investing, and already being here in Kuwait we are investing. The Saudis, they are investing, whether it is in hydrogen, whether in solar, whether it is in wind, whether it is it's in all, whether it is even if we're talking nuclear power. You're talking about UAE. They have four plants. So everybody is doing it, but again, you cannot go the renewables, when you talk about them, or non-fossil fuels, they cannot be enough to meet the future demand. This is why when I talk about, we have a slate, and the slate of energy, the security of energy means that you have to invest in all of these sources of energy in order to ensure that the world feels safe. What you have to fight is for the security of routes, for movements of crude and gas and so on and so forth. Not really, the solution is not really only investing in all kind of energy, because if you talk about oil is about 30% of total energy, so you cannot do without it until 2050 and beyond.
Even with the upcoming visions?
This is a factual oil industry. In fact, now, previously, different consultants have different visions, but recently all are coming to the conclusion that fossil fuels are here to stay. We're talking about oil, whether we're talking about gas, whether we're talking even about coal, but we have to change it into a clear. We are talking about all the other nuclear, solar, hydro. All of these are here to stay. So we have to invest in all, but we have to make internationally cooperate to ensure a safe movement for these products to the users. We're looking about, now we are talking about energy poverty in countries like in India and other poor countries in Africa. So these need energy, all sorts of energy. The end thing is that we need to secure the routes and the trade, and make it free and make it safe and make it under the international umbrella, rather than really trying to find alternatives, because there is no alternatives
for the time being.
And you know, the pockets of the world, this area is very, very, very important for the whole world. The Strait for Hormuz is very important. This area produces, as I said, 20 to 25 million barrels per day of crude and products. It produces also big amounts of LNG that goes also to the world. It is a very source. It is you cannot replace it.
Even the liquefied natural gas, we didn't touch much about that, but also it's important as to European nations, mostly as we've seen the spike more than 50% since the beginning of the conflict when it began. So
when you talk about the gas, again, as I said, within the slate, it is about 25%. The main exporter is really Qatar, is one of the largest, or probably the third largest producer of gas LNG into the world. Their main customers is really Asia. But again, because of the Russian invasion to Ukraine, they have been exporting to Europe. So Europe is dependent on them. The US now is coming into the picture, but again, it is limited. Because they have been exporting, but to produce more, you need to have more reserves, more investment, which is not there. So let's say the usual export from the US into Europe slightly increased, but again there is a problem. Now the main usage of gas beside petrochemical is power.
Oh, power.
And here, even here in Kuwait, we have 50% of our power comes from gas.
From gas itself?
From gas. So what are the fuels for the power? You have fuel oil, lower sulfur. You have diesel, again lower sulfur. And you have LPG. And you have LNG.
This all makes power works.
It's different plants, different usage to produce power. So if the situation prolonged, get extended further, everybody will face one of the problems is really power, because when you don't have the feed.
Yeah, that's
and we talk about Qatar. Qatar is saying because of the hit of the Ras Laffan, they have lost around 13 million tons of LNG. And that will continue until 3 to 5 years, and they need $22 billion to revamp or fix the whole situation.
This is what you were talking about. So that some things, even if we go back to normal, will take some time.
Yes.
Well, that's clear. Now, we are running out of time as much as we're benefit from the discussions, but I do want to ask you about if the escalation continues between in the conflict itself now, do you think that there may be coordination may happen between OPEC, for example, and any organization, for example, the IEA, and make decisions for the supply shocks or anything like that?
Sure. There is there is an organization called IF, International Energy Forum, and it comes under its umbrella all the world, and currently I think about 70 countries. It comes also some organizations like IRENA, IEA, OPEC, all of these countries comes under, and it meets probably 3 times or 2 times in Tehran. It is based in Saudi in Riyadh, and it's an outcome of producer-consumers dialogue that started in 1991 or in the 90s in Paris. This is an organization where there is a frank talk, but again, there are already some kind of arrangement that is being done as far as consumers under the umbrella of IEA.
So there's been already stuff done, and as you've mentioned, there may be a change of outlook or maybe a change of policies or decisions depending on the conflict, because they work with let's say, for example, data. They're data-driven. right? More than predictions. They
Yes,
don't work on
yes,
predictions.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, that's clear, and we thank you for your time and valuable insight. As much as we want to continue these discussions, but sadly we're running out of time, and hopefully we'll have you next time here in our studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammad Alshatti.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for Kuwait TV. Thank you for yourself.
Thank you. Dear viewers, that was Mr. Mohammad Alshatti, energy expert, here with us in the studio. And now this brings us to the end of our live coverage tonight. Throughout this program, we have been following the latest regional developments and examining their potential implications for the state of Kuwait and the wider Gulf region. Despite the tensions surrounding the region, Kuwait continues to demonstrate preparedness, resilience and coordination across its national institutions. From security readiness and emergency preparedness to economic and environmental stability, the country's institutions remain committed to protecting citizens and residents and maintaining national stability. As developments continue to unfold across the region, Kuwait remains vigilant and dedicated to safeguarding its security while contributing to efforts aimed at preserving peace and stability. Dear viewers, once again, thank you for joining us, and of course, on a daily basis, we'll be with you, giving you the latest around the conflict. Now, be safe and goodbye.